we're doing this?
Not
On
last
rare
year.
occasion.
No, somehow, a woman who has a radio show has been logging in.
Put it over the radio?
Karen Ottoboni.
I haven't seen, there's no one on right now.
Because, yeah, I saw her at something, because she interviewed me for something years ago, and she's like, oh, I want to talk to you about elk. I like, everything you were saying about elk. I was like, I didn't think anybody was listening. So. I would have said different things if I knew.
Kyle, they were always listening.
Mr. Owl's got his eyes on, watch out.
Yeah, you're ready to roll, the owl is live.
Okay, great, call to order. Roll call.
Commissioner Farmer,
Present?
Commissioner Festino,
Present.
Commissioner Weaver,
Present.
Chair Van.
Present. So we've got absent, we've got Tracy and Patty.
By pre-arrangement, yes.
Pre-arrangement, yes. Okay, I'll ride along to public expression. Nobody, are you, public expression for anything?
Sure, for one of your agenda items, but
Okay,
for mob,
you, what's that?
for Mediterranean Corps.
Okay,
5C. Okay.
I mean, technically, I'm an employee of the county. I'm Mike. I'm the forest advisor with UC Public Center.
oh, cool. Good. So did we want to wait and pick
Yeah,
that
might as
up
well
on
put
it?
it on 5C.
Okay, sounds good. Approval of minutes, I looked at them, I didn't notice anything that needed to be changed.
Make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
All those in favor?
Wait a second, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Now you can do all those in favor. Good,
Efficient.
he's ready. All those in
Get
favor?
a second?
Yeah, Don.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, commissioner reports. Commissioner Farmer,
I have nothing.
Commissioner Cristino,
I have 0.
Commissioner Weaver.
A couple of things.
Good.
We're about to stack the containers for our new ice house at the Noyo Harbor. So they're, within about 2 months, we should have 20 tons a day flake ice available to trailer boats as well as the commercial fleet off the high dock. So it's right in front of the harbor master's office is where it's going. It's unfortunate we ran into some delays, but everything's going good now, and it should be operational, like I said, within 2 months. So won't affect our fishing season for the rest of this year too much, but next year should be really good. We had the Noyo Harbor Festival at the end of September, and its focus was not only on the fishing fleet, but everything to do with the ecology of the coast and the river, and it was very well attended. It keeps getting bigger and better every year.
That's great.
Yeah, so next year it will be primarily focused at the South Harbor. There'll be fish taco eating competitions, fish filleting competitions, all kinds of fun stuff. And then finally, we just had Kelp Fest on the first weekend of October, and that was wildly successful as well. The Nature Conservancy and some of our commercial urchin divers are really showcasing how much the restoration efforts have done with the kelp emergency that we have out there. And there's a movie, it's called Sequoias of the Sea. If you guys get a chance to see it, it's worth watching. And it can show like how the marine heat wave moved in, the sunflower sea star die-off, the purple urchin explosion, and the decimation of the kelp forest in that like 12 to 30 foot range. So it's fascinating. It dovetails with that letter that we sent to the State Fish and Game Commission, which they are hell-bent on doing this 10-year closure. So they just had their meeting last week, and it was their discussion meeting, so they made no comment about it. But 5 people phoned in or did via Zoom, and they agreed with our letter. So there's more people agreeing with our position on it than there are just shelving it for 10 years. Because everybody knows that they're, once it's out of sight, it's out of mind.
Who has the final say on it?
The California Fish and Game Commission.
And they've been playing around with that for a while now.
Yes, and so they're going back and forth between the Marine Resource Committee and the actual commission. It's almost impossible to find the information unless you go to the Marine Resource Committee's webpage. And then you got to go through tons of meeting information
Subvert.
to find it. Yeah. So a lot of people don't know what's going on with both the kelp and the abalone. So the more information that we can spread and get out, the better off we are.
So 2 questions. Is there any way we can push back a little further on this? Like maybe going over to one of their meetings, you know?
So December is their voting meeting on it. And that would be the next time to be able to truly voice any opposition to it. And it can be in person, it can be via Zoom, or you can even call in on the phone.
I've
So,
always felt, you know, if you're in person, it brings a
The
little bit
meeting in
more.
Sacramento?
yeah, the meeting's in Sacramento.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would
Take a
love to
ride?
say I would go and
Yeah,
do
I'd
it,
take a
but I
ride.
don't think I'll be ready to go and do it just
Yeah, I
yet.
mean, Joe and I could be your wingman, but I mean, I know you could out-talk us.
Because of my surgery that's coming up, I'll probably have to be a Zoom
Oh,
guy
gotcha,
for that
okay.
one. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then our commission, it's been quite a few years ago, we did a $20,000 grant to Josh Russo. And he did an urchin-type removal deal at Russian Gulch.
Mm-hmm.
There, I was wondering, did they dive any of that, and are the abalone coming back, or the kelp?
Yes, that's not one of the restoration projects, but the natural restoration there has helped. The removal that happened helped that kelp start to get reestablished there.
Oh, good.
So there's a few sites that, by just nature, are starting to come back really
Mhm.
good. But the places that are receiving the attention with the restoration or the urchin management are coming back much, much faster.
That's good. That's good to know. And you feel the abalone are getting plentiful again for
Yeah, like you can't not see them in the shallow because that's where all that kelp is concentrated. So there's tons of abs in the shallow, and then once you get out past 35 feet, then you start seeing them again, and it's everything from 9s and 10s to little quarter size
Wow.
ones. So the recruitments are
That's
happening.
good.
They're just not
Good.
happening at some of the traditional DFG survey sites.
Sure. Well, that makes it sense. And that's something that, you know, I think the public needs to be aware of. You know, they need to broaden their, you know, survey areas
Mhm.
type of deal, because we need to get people back in the water and have some
Absolutely.
recreational abalone harvesting.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Is Anna Newman still the
Harbor
harbor
master?
master?
She is. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I said what?
We'll do.
So do we need to talk about this Patty's letter with
You can, but you didn't do your report.
what? Oh, yeah, I don't have a whole lot, I was working, I mentioned a little bit with the US Forest Service on the Hammerhorn Lake project, but with the government shutdown, there's really not a whole lot of stuff moving forward up there on the Forest Service side. I guess, I was contacted by some people in Willits wondering why Fish and Game doesn't stock like Lake Emily and some of these Talmadge lakes anymore, or ponds. And I wasn't aware that they weren't doing it, but apparently they're not. So they asked if our commission could look into that. So
What do they want to stock?
trout and up in
Okay.
brook trails, and I guess historically they always stock those lakes, and then the ones up Talmadge, I guess there's 3 dams
The
up
mill ponds there.
Mill Ponds.
Mill
Yeah.
Pond, yeah.
And I guess it hasn't been happening.
Well, there's been talk with California Department of Fish and Wildlife about stocking males only of these spawned fish from the hatchery. So they're talking about putting, 20-inch to 36-inch fish in the upper pond. And they're also talking about Lake Mendocino. Now, they've been talking about it 3 years in a row, and right before we start spawning, they canceled it. So I don't know what's gonna happen now. I mean, we're open to the public January 2nd, so hopefully before then, we'll have an idea what they intend to do. But for the last 3 years, they were talking really serious about that, and then for some reason, unbeknownst to us, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, because do we still have the fish stocking truck?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, is that something we used to do in the past? Stock these remote lakes?
Well, no, actually, Warm Springs used to stock in Talmadge, Mill Creek, the upper pond. Now it's being stocked by El Dorado, that hatchery, and they're not coming over nearly as much as Warm Springs was. Warm Springs was stocking sometimes twice a month. From what I understand, they're talking about 2 or 3 stockings for the year.
So Warm Springs still has a hatchery that goes out and does that?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
How about, there used to be a place I think we used to use out of Fort Bragg, that trout stocking company. Are they still,
I don't know.
do you know of any place over there?
The sign's still up, but I don't know if they're still operating or not.
Yeah. I don't know, I guess, I think that would be a
I think
department.
they are.
Are they?
Somehow that came up
Yeah.
recently that they were.
Would that be something that we would reach out to Department of Fish and Wildlife, I guess, and see why they are not stocking it.
It's an idea.
Yeah, I guess, well, Camden, but she's more of our wildlife biologist. I guess, we don't have a fisheries biologist, I don't think, do we? So, okay, I'll look into that. Okay. Okay, item 5A, discussion and possible action regarding submittal of letter to Board of Supervisors related to funding sources related to the remediation and cleanup illegal trespass encampments.
That's the letter that
We've got the letter.
Patty's
Did
letter you're
everybody
talking about?
read that letter that Patty
Yeah.
wrote?
There's another copy. I think there's 2 more there.
Okay.
I'm fine with it the way it is.
Yeah, it looked good to me. I think this has more had to do with,
It was a lot of
your
grant
meeting
funding.
over there, whatnot.
Yeah, and I have all of her grant funding attachments. I just didn't include them because we got them all in June, the traveling meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, I said I have all of her attachments. And then do you want to send it as informational, or does someone want to be available on consent in case they call, board calls for questions?
Well, I think you'd have to
Like
ask
something
Patty
like
about
that.
that. Since she signed it, the
Well, she will
inquiries are
find
gonna come into her.
it. We can start with informational and have them request comments too.
Yeah, but this was kind of your deal, wasn't it, Donna?
Yeah.
I know you got some medical stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, when is the meeting that they would be looking at it at?
Probably November 18th. I have to clear with the director what day. we
I
can get
could
on
be
the calendar.
available for phone or Zoom for that, if they wanted to ask any
Just in
questions
case,
about it,
okay.
yeah.
So, do we need to make a motion to approve it? or-
Yes, please, motion to submit to the board.
I'll make the motion to submit Patty's letter to the Board of Supervisors.
Second,
A second.
thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? That was easy.
Yes.
Okay, 5B, discussion and possible action regarding Thule and Roosevelt elk concerns in Mendocino County.
My suggestion is that we put that to the next meeting because Carrington, Hilson, and another person that works with her who's in charge of the hunting decisions up on Pillsbury could potentially be available then.
Is that Pat Sater?
No,
Okay.
starts with a G. She sent me kind of current elk numbers, so I could read through that if people are just interested.
Sure.
But this agenda item came out of some conversations that we were having in the last meeting.
Can we roll this over for next?
December 9th,
Okay.
But you can still talk about elk numbers.
Yeah,
if you want.
I'd like to hear what's going on.
So interestingly, after the 2017 fire, elk moved from Potter to Redwood Valley. So their count is 89 elk in Redwood Valley. Potter Valley, we have 412,
Wow.
which when they had counted before, it was up to 70. So I'm glad they got a better count. Little Lake, they've seen 85. Laytonville, 83. Sherwood, 216. And I think Sherwood is a big challenge because there's kind of no ranches there that are large enough to really have a proper hunt program. So, Shamrock 104, Eden Valley 193, Round Valley 130, for a total of 1,312 Thule elk in Mendocino County. And then there are 41 Roosevelt elk in Sinkyone Wilderness. And I had shared in that last meeting that as the Roosevelt elk population grows, there's expectation of overlap to potential hybridization. And Fish and Wildlife's current policy is that they will not take any action on that. And my personal opinion is that we have intervened with these populations to the extent that we've created these overlapping corridors, and that it may be our responsibility then to manage, especially on behalf of the Thule that are much smaller subspecies.
Roosevelt are pushing them out.
Push them out and kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll come in and they just, when Roosevelt showed up on our property, they were 15 to 18 inches taller than the biggest Thule on the property. So when the rut started, the Thules didn't last very long.
Actually killed them, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
In Sherwood, where they don't have any ranches and they don't have
this could not be true. I'm just, everyone I've talked to with elk out in Sherwood, I've never met someone with a robust hunting program to manage that population.
You think California Department of Fish and Wildlife would execute a special hunting season for that area?
I'm not sure what the people out there are hoping for. You know, Fish and Wildlife is mostly interested in expanding what they call the SHARE program. And I don't know what the minimum acreage is for that. But it's just, it's a challenge once you get to these really smaller acreages to have a hunt when you don't know, it's inconsistent to know if will be
They
elk
were
on your
reducing
property.
the acreage from 400 to 40 on some proposal. Did that go through?
For your capacity to apply for a landowner tag, that is
That
the
went
case.
through.
That went through. I think it was 60, but I could be
60?
wrong.
Okay.
And that'll have the same challenge that you could very easily not have elk on your property during the hunt season.
Right.
You know, other states, Montana, Utah, have these kind of more cooperative hunt unit setups. I don't know if there's options like that in California, but in some cases, if you have, 20, 60-acre parcels next to each other, you don't know where the elk are going to be any
Yeah.
given day. Even at the
During the
2,400 acre
season.
range, you could definitely have elk move off the property from one day to the next. I haven't faced that problem yet on our ranch, but it's definitely possible that you could schedule a hunt and then have no hunters.
So what you're saying, like a cooperative with your neighbors, if you had a hunter show up for your share tag, you could trespass on their property with the hunters, that,
There just if there are elk living on these smaller acreages, there might need to be a way for them for those property owners to be able to cooperate on a
Oh, I
hunt in
see.
a way
yeah,
that maybe isn't available, because it's generally been understood that if you're going to hunt elk, it's going to be on at least a few thousand acres.
mhm,
So how do you do it when I drive out Sherwood, the elk are all along the road and they're in these little horse pastures.
mhm.
So maybe there's something else going on.
Yeah, I know
Back
the Mitchells
further,
used to
but-
have the Spring Valley Ranch up there, but it's more towards the Laytonville side, the
Mhm.
Sagehorn Ranch.
Sherwood, that's a lot of elk.
Seems like,
Sherwood,
yeah.
216, and that's just that's their minimum count. So that's what they saw.
Wow. When was this survey done?
February 2024.
So it could be even bigger.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then in the case of the Potter Valley, 'cause I think she said that 2023, 2024, she might have been specifically talking about Potter Valley, that she knew that they had done a better job, because that's the year that they really got the better numbers. Yeah, it looks like they're relying on that 2023, 2024 survey, is that they have better capacity than in the 2024, 2025.
Interesting.
The two herds that mix up in Shasta and Siskiyou County, there's the northeast corner that's predominantly Rocky Mountain elk. And then the Roosevelts have kind of encroached over from Siskiyou, and there has been hybridization going on there since 2009 that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
And they have not addressed anything about
Yeah.
trying to keep those species separate there.
But I think in those, whatever should be done up there, those are such more robust populations, and it's not like the Tules that are already kind of pushed over to the edge
Right.
of the. I mean,
To the edge.
I think the fact, from an evolutionary perspective, there must be a reason why these animals are so much smaller bodied. So you could also make the argument that in the long run, you have hybridization, you have larger body animals, you start having larger body Tules,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the next mega drought that is beyond our even imagination, California can have droughts that would
Mm-hmm.
just rock us all. Those are the times that those elk really need to be smaller bodied,
Mm-hmm.
and they need to be able to move more.
Hmm.
So.
Interesting.
But it'd be great to hear from them in the next meeting. I forget what Carrington said, that it's kind of during their darting season, but she could definitely at least call in. And then, I want to say, maybe his name's Josh, there was another person who could report. There's a lot of rumors in Potter Valley that they're gonna basically exterminate the Pillsbury herd.
Really?
So I haven't read it, so I think it's kind of, but in the absence of information,
Mm-hmm.
then rumors start, so it'd be better to get ahead of it.
Yeah, that was something that our wildlife biologists should be able to talk to us about Camden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's really
Yeah.
on top of that stuff.
Yeah, it'd
Does a
be
good
great to know
job.
what the plan is, because
Yeah, we'll have, can you put that,
Mhm.
yeah,
because PG&E has their plan, but when I read their plan, it really wasn't a pro-elk plan. It was a plan mostly focused on the elk as an issue for stream bank willow plantings. There wasn't anything in that document that gave you a sense that the goal was to act, you know, in a pro-elk way. It was more kind of treating elk as a pest, which,
interesting, yeah. Thank you.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know where the shutdown is on Forest Service and all that too, so.
Part of the,
I personally don't understand where Fish and Wildlife's management of that herd interacts with the Forest Service's responsibility for that herd, because any sort of forage improvement that would need to happen to sustain that group is gonna be more of a Forest Service responsibility.
yeah, if it was their land, for sure,
Mhm.
yeah. That'd be another good question maybe I could reach out to Frank Abley at the, Forest Service and see what cause he's the Upper Lake and Covelo District Ranger, so maybe he would have some insight to that. Good, thank you. Okay, 5C, discussion and possible action regarding the Mediterranean oak borer beetles.
That was Tracy, I believe?
Well, I mentioned in the meeting, and then Tracy said that she'd wanna hear more about it, and so I invited Mike Jones, who is California's leading expert on Mediterranean oak borer.
I like the way he laughed at that.
Well, it's a very new thing, so it probably is true at this point.
There's two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you just want me to talk about mob? What is the information? What's your bet? Do you know about Mediterranean oak borer mob? What's kind
We
of-
don't. We know
Okay.
very little, let's put
Okay.
it that
I
way.
think our concern is what's it gonna do to our oaks?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So mob is arguably our most recently detected kind of aggressive invasive insect that attacks oaks. It primarily favors the white section, and in particular valley oak. We've also found it in Oregon white and blue oak. That is especially concerning because until this point with gold spotted oak borer, sudden oak death, those have been red oaks. So now we can comfortably say that every one of our native oak trees has a significant invasive pest. So I printed out, sorry I can't count. I didn't realize there's I only have 5 copies of things, but in the invasive ecology, invasive management, invasive tree pest space, we know about mob since 2019, and that's just kind of nothing, right? So we really have not a lot going for this insect yet. And like I said, literally just myself and my colleague Curtis Ewing from CAL FIRE are leading the research program on mob in the entire state. So
Oh, wow.
I have resources available. So CDFA was engaged early on, but they classified it as a Group B pest. And once the state does that, meaning they consider it a serious pest of concern from an economic perspective, the state essentially lost interest because it's just not a high priority in their eyes. Ecologically, it's going to be a big problem.
And you have since an oak is a Group B species, does it have to be a Group B pest, or?
No, that's Fish and Department of Food and Ag's ranking of invasive pests. It's kind of how they rank their potential impact, typically from an economic and ecological
So
perspective.
that's not a Group A, B?
No,
or-
it's literally like it classifies like different categories for like how significant of a pest they consider it to be. So like sudden oak death is a Group A pathogen because of how aggressive it is, and it gets quarantine and it gets all kinds of public or state support from the Board of Forestry and all those folks. But when you give it a Group B rating, it's not considered a significant agricultural pest, and that's really the only funding source that really helps in this space. So all I'm saying in that space is that it's slow for us because we still have a ton of resources at this time. So it's in Mendocino County. We first found in Calistoga. So it's been established in Napa for probably 10, 15 years at this point. Like I said, we first really picked it up because an arborist who noticed some really unusual insect signs and symptoms in valley oaks, realized it was a new species, ID'd it through morphology and genetics, figured out it's from the Mediterranean region, likely moved here through infested material, either through packing material or French oak staves that are used for making wine barrels. I'm not entirely sure, but everywhere that we have a wine producing region, we see Mediterranean oak borer popping up. So in other parts of Europe, as well as there's a separate infestation of mob in Oregon right now. So it's a different, genetically different population. So it's moving where there's wine production. This is the insect itself, just if you guys are interested. It's an ambrosia beetle, which is a type of bark beetle. They're pretty cool because instead of eating wood and digesting it internally with internal gut flora like we have, they have a symbiotic fungi that they carry in a little compartment in their mandibles, and they inoculate the tree they infest with this fungus. The fungus colonizes, it's slightly pathogenic, meaning it kind of establishes, starts to break down those complex carbon chains, and the beetles eat the fungus, so they're farmers. They literally farm the fungus, both the adults and the larvae. So it's a pretty interesting biology. What that means, though, is that not only are we trying to figure out how to manage for the insect itself, but its fungus is also a problem because it can be a pathogen that can also be a significant issue. So that means we're trying to manage both for the insect and its symbiont.
Small.
They're 3 millimeters.
Wow.
Yeah, so by the time you're seeing a tree die, it's typically a large bailout has produced thousands, if not tens of thousands of beetles.
Crazy.
We're still trying to tease this out, but they really seem to prefer the older, larger trees, which is pretty common, but they seem to prefer stress trees. So we're not entirely sure that it's an aggressive pest of healthy trees. It really seems to respond to stress, and that's pretty challenging because a lot of our oaks are stressed because of
The heat.
drought, heat, kind of in the urban space where there's a lot of large valley oak and they're high value trees. The urban environment is very stressful for trees with compaction, pollution, weird things that people do to trees that cause wounding and damaging, improper pruning, all these things that so that's where we're seeing the biggest impact. So for where we've been following the Calistoga, we see it really aggressive in the urban forest. It's in Santa Rosa. We're now in 8 or 9 counties. There's a separate infestation in Sacramento that's moving in the Sierra foothills and kind of through West Sac. And in Mendocino County, I've confirmed it in Hopland. I think it's pretty much moving up and down the 101 corridor from Hopland to southern Ukiah. And I'm pretty sure I have found at least one tree, but there's a lot of tree decline in Potter Valley, so I'm pretty sure there's a very well-established infestation in Potter Valley too.
Is there any characteristics that are identifiable on the tree itself?
Yeah, that's the hard part is, this tiny little beetle that goes inside the tree. They're so cryptic, it's really hard to detect infestation early. They like to smart in the upper canopy. So if, you have really good monitoring, you can kind of maybe track where they start in one large branch, and you might see one branch decline relative to the rest of the canopy, and then they move down as they go. And then what's unusual for an ambrosia beetle is they also infest the main stem of the tree. And once they move to the main stem, they've done so much mechanical damage from their galleries and the fungus. Once it girdles the whole tree, they bore into the sapwood, so they're really only feeding in that outer wood. But the fungus, it colonizes the xylem, which is those pores, and once the pores are clogged, it can't move water nutrients, and it basically kills the tree. So once they feed all the way around, they kill it. So we don't know how long that takes. Presumably, at low density infestation or population densities, it could take years or even a decade for a tree to die until the beetles are released or something. But we're seeing what we think are pretty rapid mortality events in a couple of years because the populations are so abundant and active. When we have anytime, we just got the data on this, anytime temperatures under the bark are greater than 65 degrees Fahrenheit, we see insect activity. And that we can get a warm up in February, and that can be enough to cause activity. And the trees have, some bark beetles, they have 1 or 2 generations per year, and you get these peak emergence. So it's kind of easy to target management because you're like, I know, for example, if I have conifers, mountain pine beetle, western pine beetle are going to be active in the early summer, late spring, and I can target all my management before that point. With Mediterranean oak borer, since there's multiple generations and the females will just hang out, they'll just wait in the tree until conditions are right. They'll fly any time of the year, so targeting treatment is really challenging. Because you can cut a tree in February and they'll swarm from that tree because they get warmed up. So yeah, there's a lot we don't know. Research-wise, we're working on establishing some insecticide trials, so looking at using both an insecticide and a fungicide to control the beetle and its food. We're long-term monitoring, looking at how we can, manage water stress in oaks, so thinking about supplemental irrigation when appropriate. Outreach education. The biggest thing that we have for us right now is like not having people not moving infested material. And it's a really challenging time of year to do that, because when you see a big dead oak and like that's perfect firewood, and so people are collecting that material, that's where we're seeing, we know that the infestation moved from Calistoga to Sonoma because it occurred in the where the infestation was in 2 fire footprints, and then the glass fire happened after we already knew the infestation was here. At the same time, large utility companies were doing right-of-way clearing and they're doing post-fire management, and we saw all this wood come out of the heavily infested area and come to these wood waste sites all over Northern California, and we see infestations popping up in those spaces. So we know that it moves through infested material. That's a very common pathway for invasive insects.
Do we know where it originated from?
Yeah, its native range is through the Mediterranean region, northern Africa, all along the Mediterranean edge, but it's also invaded into the Iberian Peninsula, so it's a pest in Portugal and Spain and Corco. It's moved up into northern France and southern Germany, where it's in the wine regions, and in further north in Italy as well, where it has become a pest in their native oaks as well.
That's crazy.
How are they dealing with it, or are they not?
They have,
where we're at?
yeah, they've been doing it for a lot longer than we have. They're in the same boat though, that, it's a challenge when it's, it's moving slightly out of its native range, so it's hard to kind of understand like how resistant are these trees? Is it tied to stress? Is it tied to like cork plantations or specific genetics? Whereas here, our species have no co-evolutionary history with this pest, and they're very susceptible. It has also a wider host range in its native range, so that's something to think about. But for right now, we just see it in the white oaks and valley oak in particular.
In New York, we had a gypsy moth caterpillar.
Yep.
And as you drove through the mountains, you can see literally levels that went from mountain to mountain, all at the same
Yep.
elevation,
Yep.
brown.
Yep.
Obviously, New York is the opposite of here. In the summertime, everything is green. So you would see this stripe of brown. Is there anything that are characteristic of?
Yeah, Lymantria defoliators, Lymantria are, that's a kind of they have these weird cyclical outbreak events, and there's a huge federal effort to control Lymantria. We don't call it gypsy moth anymore, we call it spongy moth.
Spongy moth.
Yeah.
Well, I'm an old guy.
Yeah. But I did my dissertation on emerald ash borer, so I went to grad school in upstate New York. It's not going to have the same kind of scaled impact that you see with those particular invasive pests. What we'll see is this prolonged die-off, where we'll have individual, like really the largest trees that we're seeing so far will go first. They'll be in like little clusters, and then the infestation will kind of calm down for a little bit. Maybe microclimate conditions push it to suppress a little bit, and then it pops up somewhere else, and it's going to show back up in that original area. So you're just going to see like these localized outbreaks where it'll kill a bunch of trees, but not like a swath where it'll just kind of move through and everything behind it will die. It'll be these pockets of mortality that will kind of occur perpetually, right? This insect is here, it's not going away. It's going to slowly work through the valley oak populations. I don't know if we're looking at functional extinction, which means like the species essentially disappears out of the forest landscape, but it's certainly going to be in the short term a significant impact in the urban forest in the WUI, where you have like Windsor, for example, or even Ukiah, where valley oaks are a huge part of the urban canopy and in the parks, and blue oak as well, right? Think about like Low Gap Park, for example. That's a lot of blue oak and valley oak. If it takes off in there, it essentially could kill every single mature tree in the stand like that.
Which is concerning for us too, for the wildlife, woodpeckers,
Yeah,
and hogs,
everything.
and deer, and
Yeah.
everything, that's a huge.
So we're trying to understand, the dynamics and the significance of these impacts it'll be significant, but it might be distributed through time, not these. And that's a challenge, right? If something like Emerald Ash Borer killed everything out like aggressively, and you're like, oh, they can get we get lots of funding and money to support that. But when you have something that kills a few trees here and there, it's hard to draw attention to that, and so you only see it flare up. People get concerned, and then trees stop dying for a little bit. They lose interest, and then it flares back up. So we're dealing with this kind of short-term, this short attention span in this space.
Do you know how long science has been aware of them in our area?
Since 2019.
About 6 years, okay.
So are you with CAL FIRE or the county?
I'm an extension forester of the University of California.
Okay.
So I'm a farm advisor essentially out of the
Perfect.
office. Just
Did you have a business card?
I have a digital card, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, Mediterranean borers, and I have stickers. I know they're just fun. If people want stickers, they can have some. But it's good outreach. I have other. There's another series of pests called the invasive shothole borers. It was 2 insects. Now it's 3. Why I bring this here is they're mainly established in Southern California, but we now have an infestation in San Jose and Santa Cruz. And while mob is a pretty significant issue for valley oak and oaks, these particular species have a host range in the hundreds of native plants. And they're on our doorstep, and it's something that we need to be paying attention to, especially because they also attack valley oak. So this is also information here. They're similar pests. They're small little shothole borers. They're like ambrosia beetles. They are very similar. But this is just to say, hey, if we're thinking about Mediterranean oak borer and the impacts it's having on us now, when these insects show up, it's going to be much more dramatic because these things pretty much, any tree, if you go outside, we'll look at every tree that's planted out in the parking lot, and it's a host for this particular group of insects.
Hmm.
So it's another very concerning potential for...
I'd take a look at
Yeah.
each handout you brought.
Yeah, exactly. So this one is just the update on the new insect. It's called the greater shothole borer, and then these are the integrated pest management or pest notes for the shothole borers. We call them invasive shothole borers or ISHOB. There's one. Why I brought these 2 is a lot of how we're thinking about mob, because they're so similar in kind of their behavior and their impacts, that what we do for the invasive shothole borers is what we're kind of basing our recommendations off for mob right now until we get better information. So this just kind of gives you an insect that's been around that we've known about for 15 plus years. This is kind of the direction we'll be heading and what we can expect thinking about Mediterranean borer.
So this relates to this.
Yeah. So that like the one that's like the greater shothole borer is the 3rd species that's part of this invasive shothole borer complex.
I've worked for CAL FIRE, equipment operator for them, a lot of times going in after a fire, on fire line suppression repair. I mean, all of a sudden,
This is one set.
these big beetles come in and, you get out looking at some line, they stick right through
Yeah.
the next shirt, and then pretty soon you see them bored into a tree. I mean,
Yeah.
they're very aggressive.
And those are native. Those are cericids, the round-headed borers.
But they're big, they're nothing like this little.
No. They're feeding on dead trees, right? Those are like responding to fire and feeding on dead trees.
Did you get it?
These are insects. These insects attack living, relatively healthy trees.
And can you imagine the fire effects with that kind of kill off of California riparian species?
Yeah, it's a big concern thinking about in Southern California. They're really concerned because a lot of the riparian, like box elder and maples and all those trees that are hosts in the natural landscapes, they're really concerned about fire effects. And gold spotted oak borer killing coast live oak, they're really concerned about fire behavior in these sites that are heavily invaded with lots of decline in mortality. So it's going to be an economic. The way we think about invasive pest management in the forest ecosystems and the urban forest is that when it's on public land, that's when the federal government and the state will get involved. But when it's on private property, essentially they have delegated that responsibility to the homeowner or the landowner and the local municipality. So really the burden of cost and really like not only but the capacity to respond and act is down to the local government, right? So it's really up to the county and the city municipalities to decide how they respond and whether they're gonna mobilize and try to get resources to
Do
deal with
we
these
even have a
issues.
pesticides controls department in the county?
I mean, ag pests, yes, right, through weights and measures and ag department. But for forest pests, they're aware, we're engaged, but no, there's no real concerted effort to really address mob yet in Mendocino. I've been reaching out, to these counties since the beginning to educate them and make them aware, but it's, one more issue they're dealing with, one more very expensive issue they're dealing with, and it's hard to kind of, it's easier just to like wave your hands, and be like, oh, whatever. It's harder to kind of figure out how to respond.
Yeah, the ugly side to it is that if it wipes out our oaks, it's a pretty big deal.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, it might not be, its behavior at this point is
Not super aggressive.
it's aggressive, but not in like obvious to the layperson kind of way. Like a tree dies, they're like, oh, my tree died. And where you see people paying attention is like Western Santa Rosa, where they have lots of mortality. Like, oh my God, but we had that same thing a couple years ago when there was tons of mortality, and then they lost interest, and now everybody's freaked out again. So it's very ephemeral and hard to keep people focused on kind of thinking about the long-term consequences of invasive pests like this.
Is there any communications like with our senator or congressman for our area or?
We've done outreach to the state and local government. I've presented to the Board of Supervisors here several times. They had a tree mortality task force back when we had some drought-related mortality, and I talked about mob then. But as far as I'm aware, there's not a lot of. I guess no, right? We haven't really had ability to have a concern.
Get it on their radar.
Yeah, exactly. Or
See if I can-
keep it in their attention, right? Like
It's not urgent enough for them.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
So I'm really focused on the research, trying to figure out like how do we dispose the material, how do we stop spreading material, chemical control, those kinds of things. That's where we're really focusing our efforts right now. But we are limited in capacity, we're limited in funds. There's not a lot of money out there for this kind of work, so it's going to be a challenge for sure.
So when these are stressing the trees, and the trees then become more susceptible to fire danger, what does fire do to these things?
Yeah, we have plots in the glass fire footprint, like Bluffé and some of those areas that burned, and we're following that. What we saw was, it's always complicated, right? It's never an easy picture, but we did see that sometimes they responded to fire stress trees. I would say because we don't have like entire stands that are dying all at one time, that you have individual trees that are breaking. That's the other thing, because of the insects' activity and the galleries they form, they're kind of very planar, so it's kind of like a saw. And trees that are killed, that die from mob, break down really fast. Like typically, you think of your oak just kind of like chunky down a little piece at a time, and it takes like a decade or more for it to break down. When a tree's very heavily infested with the mob, it breaks down within a couple of years, just because they weaken the structure of that tree. So you see like localized changes in fire behavior, especially if it's like in people's defensible space but we haven't had enough wildfires occur where we have big infestations to really know how it's going to affect fire behavior. I don't think there'll be a landscape impact like maybe a really bad Sun Oak death outbreak would be, but it certainly will affect, localized fire behavior or create high-intensity hotspots, and that'll be concerning if you're trying to do suppression or your defensible space.
It's creating a lot of fuel, but I think the question is whether the fires eradicate them in that forest.
Or does it spread them?
Good questions.
We don't know.
We don't know. To kill them, when they're in the tree, to kill them, you basically have to kill the tree, right? Their bark and wood is a pretty good insulator for insects. So to really create enough heat, you basically are killing the trees. If a tree is killed by fire, it's not going to be favorable to them. They need very specific moisture content, right? Because they like living material. So there's like a sweet spot where fire-stressed trees that are still alive will probably be attractive, but fire-killed trees will not. It's hard to say like whether or not a mob-infested tree burns differently than other trees. Right, that's something, yeah, long-term research will show. So there's always that risk that it might change fire behavior, or it might have a role in kind of fire severity, but we just don't know at this point yet. I think it's gonna be very much dependent on the site. And the other trick is a lot of mortality is happening in the urban space, right? Because Valley Oak is, you know, where most of our ag and development is. And so people are very aggressively like cleaning up, right? There's a lot of management of this wood. It's going to be interesting to see when it establishes and becomes more persistent in wildland or natural areas, and that'll be interesting to see kind of how it changes fuel loading and fire behavior.
And you've kind of made the same presentation to the Board of Supervisors that you've made to us
Yeah.
today.
Yep.
It might not hurt for us to lean out to our, appointed supervisors and just remind them the severity of this could cause the county.
Yeah, I haven't really talked to him since I confirmed it. I reached out and said, hey, I did a mass email. I was like, hey guys, it's in Mendo, but they can't respond to those emails, so I haven't been on the agenda. But maybe it's worth me speaking to them again now that we've
I
confirmed
think
it in
it's
the
something
county.
pretty serious personally.
Yeah,
Before it gets worse.
Yes.
it's gonna be.
Imagine in Covelo, the Valley Oaks there.
Oh gosh, there's some beautiful
Yeah,
trees there.
It's gonna become, once it gets well established in this area, it'll be very obvious because these very large heritage trees that everybody loves, that they build their houses around or we build parks. Those are the ones that are dying.
Yeah, I might be able to reach out to the Round Valley Indian tribes out there. They've got a pretty big forestry department up there and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I've been working with tribes on this issue for sure, and so any outreach that I can do, I'm more than happy to support.
Will there be kind of untouched branches within a tree that's down, or if you like cut into a few branches, can you feel pretty
No,
good
it's
that
what's interesting about Ambrosia. It's really hard to like have a cut be perfectly aligned with their gallery structure because there's in that pest note here's the other challenge. There's like thousands of oak pests, and there's several native ambrosia beetles that look a lot like mob and cause similar damage, but they have slightly different behavioral patterns. So just cutting a branch, it's hard to like confirm mob. They're very morphologically, adults are very identifiable, but usually if you
to an entomologist?
well, even to a layperson, and I show you, they got like a flat butt with 4 spines on it. And, like people can see that, because that's how we ID ambrosia beetles, by their butt spines. They're unique patterns of spines that they have. But typically, if there's branch material breaking out of a tree, it's better to collect the stuff that naturally breaks because that'll break on the galleries, and then you can see the structure just like in these pictures. But to your point, like when it starts in the upper branch and it moves its way down to like the main node at the branch point, because the fungus has kind of already started to establish, they rarely move back up the tree because the material is no longer suitable host material. And they're not going to fly up to the top because they've already established the fungus lower down and it is already restricting water movement, so it's already creating unsuitable conditions on those other branches. Exactly. So they'll work on one branch, maybe they'll cross over, but typically we see one big branch down to the node, main stem. They never go back up once they start moving down. So that's a challenge because it may be one branch, you may dispose of it and not see it in 75% of the, well, that's not true. You would see maybe 50% of the branches don't have any evidence of it. It's just one branch in the main bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, early detection is challenging. It starts up high. Its decline looks a lot like anything else that causes oak stress. So getting it early is hard. By the time most people see it, it's because literally there's inches of boring dust. They have a very fine powder-like boring dust. As they bore in, they kick the waste material out. It collects as like flower dust raining down on the stem. It collects at the base, and you'll see just like 2 or 3 inches of fine dust all the way around the tree.
Oh,
And by the time you see that tree's, it's too late.
are there seasons where they're more active than not?
Whenever it's warm.
Warm.
And in Central Valley, they're even more aggressive. It's even warmer out there, and so we're finding like 5+ inches of boring dust around these huge valley oaks. They're just aggressively attacking.
Almost like a termite.
I mean, yeah, you'll find sometimes you'll go in these trees and you'll see their boring dust, and you see like other types of structured boring dust and beetle waste called frass. And so like the mob is stressing out so much that you see multiple insects attacking the tree now that they've stressed it out that much. So you'll see sometimes carpet ants and termites and other wood-boring insects and ambrosia beetles feeding on that tree because the ambrosia beetles, the mob has beaten it.
Wow. Interesting. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for
Not the
joining
best
us.
news I've heard, but
No. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, definitely helping keep us on the radar with the board.
we'll We'll do what we can to help you.
Yeah,
Be nice to get you some more money to dive into it a little deeper, in my opinion.
it'd be nice. I mean, we're tapping into shot hole bore funding. There's still a lot of money for that just because it's a much broader generalist host, and so there's a lot more effort and concern around that. But it'd be nice to get more research capacity
Yeah, for sure.
to help develop best management practices for the communities.
Yeah, I'll reach out to John and, you know, I talked to a few of the, you know, congressmen and stuff, and
Mhm.
assemblymen from time to time. So
Yeah, that would be nice.
make sure it's on, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can we keep that on the list to discuss? Okay, number 6, matters from the commission.
I have something, I don't know if it falls under this category, but I was emailed something they're having on the 21st of October, 7 PM, City Council Chambers, Ukiah Civic Center, 300 Seminary Avenue, a working forest and wild salmon presentation. Now, I'm not sure if it's a talk or a film, but John Anderson, who's a forester, and Anna Halligan, who is with Trout Unlimited, are gonna put this talk on. It's this week.
You gonna go?
I'm gonna go.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's through the Audubon Society.
Audubon Society? You don't mention it out here.
And then that weekend after that, they're actually going out to the forest on foot to
Yes.
one of the Mendocino.
The field trip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
going
on
out
the
to
25th. I'm not. I kind of helped organize it, but I'm not able
Oh,
to do
good
it.
for you. Staff reports and, thanks, Joe.
No problem.
Staff reports or announcements?
None.
That's it.
I make a motion, we adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
2:57 it is.
Perfect. Right, on the money.
All right.
Good job, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for coming in.
Absolutely, yeah. I
Yeah,
like
thank you
meeting
for the
people
information.
Short.
Still